Heidi ho, everyone. I hope everybody's having a great week. Had a good weekend. I know next week, we're going to be coming to you live from the beach. Yes. Yes. Don't know what we're going to do at the beach because it's supposed to rain all week, but we're going to be coming to you live then. And this week, my guest is Carter Buschardt. He's a BFRO guy and a MUFON guy. So you guys are going to have a lot of things to hear about tonight. And he's also a speaker, and he is going to be speaking at the Haunting History Paracon down in Joplin, Missouri, when we all go down there. So I think that'll be fun for you guys to hear a little bit more about him and what he's got to share with us. Because, you guys all know, I don't know that much about Bigfoot. So this is going to be really interesting for me. So welcome, Carter, to the Paranormal Pride.
Oh, scared me. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Boo.
Thanks for having me, Denise. Good to be here. How's it going?
It's good. And I met Carter at a paranormal conference up in Independence, Missouri. And I actually went to that conference intentionally to meet him and Katie Stafford and some of the other people, but they were only there to talk on Friday night. And I thought Carter was a fun guy to hear. And since I was going to be meeting him again in October, I wanted to have him on so you guys could hear some about what he's going to be talking about down in Joplin, because, I'm helping promote that event for my friend David Glidden. And in fact, I'll be playing the commercial that he made at the top of the hour so everybody can see that and where they can come and see you at. So how did you get started in the BFRO part?
Well, that's an interesting story. My wife and I went to Washington State about 16, 17 years ago, and we rented a cabin on the eastern side of the mountains, and totally isolated, great place, and just wanted to go out and take her out in the woods and show her my interest. I wasn't totally really involved in it at the time, but as we were walking through the woods, I had to take a leak, and so I went behind a tree, and strapped to the tree, this big tree, was an ammo box. And so what I've discovered later was this was a geocache. You familiar with that?
Yeah, we have a lot of those down here in Miami County.
Yeah, so you just pick, you're given coordinates, longitude, latitude, and general area, but then you have to go use your skills to go find places. And anyway, I saw this box sitting there. I thought I found somebody's drug stash, is what I thought. Because marijuana had just become legal in Washington State at that time. In fact, that year, and so they were busting a lot of growers that were growing up in the national forests up there. And so it was really a treacherous place to be, apparently. And of course, I didn't get that memo. So here I am treacherous through the woods with my wife. Anyway, so I'm sitting there going, God, I'd like to look in that box, but I'm afraid I got somebody's stash. So, I'm left-handed, so I grab a stick and with my right hand, and I'm trying to open that latch, and it won't come because those are pretty stout latches. So anyway, I said, screw it. I threw the stick down, opened it up, nothing blew up and killed me. And so inside, and I did not know what geocache was at the time. So I looked in the box and I saw all this stuff in there. And then I read a little thing to explain this. Oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of this. On the top was a business card for a BFRO investigator from Washington State. And I had been interested, but just not acted on it yet. And my first exposure was the In Search Of show with Leonard Nimoy, as it is for millions of people, probably. Yeah. And so I was always interested. I had other interests in other things, and that's a whole nother show at the time. So I took the card, I called a guy, got hooked up on an expedition here in Missouri, and that was 15 years ago. And here I am. I've led 4 expeditions for BFRO. I've had 3 sightings of my own, all at night on thermal, but I've experienced many, many, many other things to let me know that they are real. That's not an imagination. It's not just a dumb ape. So that's how I got involved. So I ended up joining BFRO. I did 4 expeditions. I ended up, they got rid of the guy who was running them at the time because he was not doing a great job. So I ended up leading 3 in Missouri, and I led one in 2019 in Illinois. So that's kind of my history with BFRO in a nutshell.
So, and for those of you who don't know, BFRO stands for Bigfoot Research Organization.
Bigfoot Field Research Organization.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what it stands for.
I mean, most of what I've seen about Bigfoot has mostly been, let's see. Well, there's a few different things. You've got the researchers out there that are leaving marbles and apples, and you got the ones hunting with guns. Should I be scared of Bigfoot? I mean, based on these shows, I don't know. It's like he's bipolar.
No, there's no real danger unless you're trying to cause harm to them. And I've had experiences with them, with mind speak and gifting, where I know who I'm communicating with and why I'm communicating with them.
Okay.
And this Don Corleone, thermal imaging. I'm just talking about thermal night vision cameras like a FLIR, not night vision or night cam like with the green screen, stuff like that. I'm talking about thermal, like FLIR thermal cameras.
Yeah, like the fire department uses.
Yeah, and their color or the one I use has 7 different frames of color in black and white. So you can have white hot, black hot, and all the other colors, purples and yellows and stuff. So I use the white hot because it just stands out so much more.
Yeah, is your FLIR an actual FLIR, or is it the one you plug into your phone?
No, I don't use those, not at all. I hate using those because when you plug them into your phone, they light up your face in the whole forest. Right. I mean, if you're trying to be stealthy, that ain't the way. This is true FLIR, and I've had a lot of different cameras through my 15 years, but I use the one now that's really just kind of like a sight. It will fold down from a helmet. It's a helmet cam is what it is. I don't use it that way because it's way too hard to walk when you've got this bright light shining in one eye. So, but back to your question about the Sasquatch, you're in no danger. I would say 98% of the time. All the things you hear are either there's a bad seed and there are bad people, just, like bad humans. There's going to be, hey, Dave, how's it going? And Sasquatch is the same. You have the good seeds and the bad seeds. Some of them just like to cause trouble. But as a rule, they are here to help us not destroy the earth and kill ourselves. They're peaceful as a rule. They don't want anything to do with humans, but they're very fascinated. They love watching us. They're fascinated because there is a connection. They know within 5% of a DNA, that could be me and he could be you. I mean, it's odd what 5% DNA difference.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 5% DNA difference because the difference between a fish and a human.
Well, yeah,
not much.
A chimp, a gorilla, So
So
chimps are actually closest relative DNA wise, So, but no, I have not had any bad experience. I've been in some areas where I was creeped out, but I kept moving, And I know when I'm in certain areas, and you may have had this with the hair on the back of your neck stands up. You just get this feeling uneasy that something's there watching you. I'm used to that. And some of my research areas I go to are actually they live there. And as soon as I get out of my vehicle and walk in, 25, 50 yards, I start getting that feeling that I know they're there, and they know I'm there, of course, as soon as I
Before
drove
you
by.
even show up. I mean, just by the time you show up, they can smell you.
Yeah.
I would assume. So we do have a question from David, and so he asks, "What are your impressions on the Sierra Sounds, and have you ever heard anything like that in the wild?"
Ron's sound, the Sierra Sounds are classic. They are the best evidence, other than the Patty film, of the existence of these beings. He commented on my first book.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Moorhead did commentary on my first book, and we're pals. And it's incredible. I have heard the gibberish. I have used it before during trying to evoke a response on the expedition I led in Illinois. Matter of fact, because these creatures were watching us, but they would not interact. It was very frustrating. It was 11 o'clock at night, and it just, why won't you? But yes, that is definitive. Just like Patty film, nobody can shoot a hole in that. And Ron is like a serious stand-up guy. If you're going to find somebody who's a hoaxer or a BSer, he's not the guy. He's just as right as rain, And so, and I've heard it a couple of times, and I've used it a couple of times. I went to one of my research areas in Missouri probably about 3 years ago, having a rough week. I wanted to get away from civilization and the house and everything.
I don't blame you. I want to get away from civilization too.
Yeah, especially now.
David did follow up with he says has heard the same talking and hoping to capture it on an expedition this fall.
Yeah, if you just talk to them and don't go banging on trees and whooping, respond if you're communicated with, but don't start it out, because that just chases them off. It chases off all the wildlife, and just sit and be still and interact and enjoy the quiet and the darkness of the woods, and if they're there, they'll communicate. You can communicate mentally, you can talk to them, but I mean, just, don't be threatening and obnoxious, human running amok with, banging on stuff and shooting guns and, being otherwise, obnoxious, and you'll have a whole lot more success,
So
and I used to be one of those tree bangers and screamers, but, things have changed considerably.
So don't be Matt Moneymaker out there pounding on a tree.
Yeah, that if you're a dumb ape believer, and that would get a reaction out of something if it was only a primitive ape of some type.
Only reaction it'll get out of me anyway, if somebody's out there doing that, is like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
And walk away. We have another question. Would you say that Bigfoot could honestly be our Darwin ancestor, where some evolved and to Homo sapien and others didn't, such as Bigfoot?
I don't believe we are connected. I'm not really much on evolution. My belief and what I've been told and what I've read and learned, and this is my belief, but it's not, I'm not an expert. There are no experts in this thing. So this is just my belief system and what I've come to be able to interact with the best way, is that, they've been here a lot longer than we have. And they may be here longer after we're gone if we don't watch our step and destroy nature and the world and kill ourselves off. They're here to kind of, show us the way if we would just listen and pay attention, And I know this is all kind of hippy dippy and kind of quantum stuff, but it is, once you come to the dark side, if you want to call it that, it's quite enlightening. I can assure you, it is just night and day. So I believe they've been here quite a while, and there's a really, really good book to read on that. Lloyd Pye wrote a book, Everything You Know Is Wrong. I would read that book, and it gets into the Anunnaki and the Sumerians, and the Anunnaki came to this planet to use us to mine gold. They created us with mixtures of their DNA and ours to get to the hairless humans, which we are. And we mined gold so they could go back and patch their atmosphere. Gold is really known in its powdery form to be able to plug holes in the atmosphere. So That's a very, very Cliff Notes version, but I would read that book, Lloyd Pye, Everything You Know Is Wrong. He has another book called Everything You Know Is Still Wrong. Uh, but it's a really, really good book. It blows the theory of evolution, creationism, and all of that. It puts it in another place entirely. You just have to read it. If you have an open mind, if you don't have an open mind and don't believe, you just are biblically inclined and that's all there is to it, that's fine. That's your choice. And, my choice is a different path. So, but, to educate yourself, considering it does not mean you believe it. It just means
Right.
you are considering it. And if you still think after you read this, you go, what a bunch of hooey. Well, that's okay. That's good.
It still could be a bunch of hooey. We won't know.
Yeah.
For sure. But education is education, whether it's, I don't want to say real or not, because I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. I don't know. I want to know more. That's why I'm having you on, because I have seen something that I can't explain, as far as crypto stuff goes. But do I believe it was a Bigfoot? I don't think so. But I don't know. That's why you're on here. So here, David also added some tree knocks are equivalent to using a K2 meter in a ghost hunting scene.
Yeah, kind of so. I've just learned to let them communicate with me first. If they knock back, but don't be the initiator. I want to say hi to Andrea Billups. She's a friend.
Wow.
Andrea, she's in the chat group.
It's all for you anyway.
Yeah, but she's it's a divided camp in the Sasquatch community. It's the apers versus the metaphysical.
Right. There's the ones that are out there going primate, and others that are going that it might be a mammal. I don't know. Yeah. I haven't seen anything that makes me jump up and go, oh my God, there's Bigfoot. What am I going to do?
I'll have to drag you down to one of my research areas.
Well, see, and that, like I said, I need to see something.
Where is that?
Yeah.
And Ron he just asked, where is that, approximately where is your research area?
Well, if I tell you, I'll have to kill you. And then,
what state is it in?
It's in Missouri, and it's down near Ellington, Missouri. I have 3 areas. I have 4 habituation families that have regular, I'll say regular, I was thinking of, weekly or monthly, but it's just regular interactions with Sasquatch families. And I just have to call them and say, hey, mind if I come down for a day or two? And if they're not busy, got something else going on, sure, I get to go down and experience some of this stuff. That's how I know, other than some of the other things that have happened to me, that these are as real as you and me standing right here talking to each other. It's just a matter of fact. It's not even a question. I've sat on the porch with them at night, and I've listened to them. When they sit on the front porch at their house, across the road, probably about 50, 60 yards, across their front yard, across the road, into the woods, across the way, you can hear them coming down, and they kind of like watch each other. They study each other. This is all at night, but I've traded whoops. I've traded knocks, rock clacks, just sitting on the porch. And it's just the most incredible thing. And they live in the middle of nowhere on close to 200 acres. There's nobody there. Back in that part of the woods, you don't go traipsing on property that ain't yours, especially at night. So, but I experience these things, and it's like, I can't trade that for all the research in the world. You just can't trade that. And then when you're doing that, you're like, you're at another level. Now you may not see them, but that you are communicating with something that is not human.
Do we have any idea how old big Sasquatches are? How long the lifespan is?
There's a few people that have theorized, and I haven't studied this part of it, but 150 to 200 years is an estimate, but I don't know what that is based on. There's DNA that is floating around, but that only will tell you what it is or isn't, not how old it is, unless it's found in some rock strata. But all that tells you that something non-human lived in this area however many hundreds of thousands of years ago. So,
Right. And
it's
what I'm asking about is an individual Bigfoot, like how long does the average dog live? How long this is the same thing. How long does the average Bigfoot live?
It's theorized at 150 to 200 years. And those are just guesstimates, I wouldn't put any stock in them unless there's a way to know. You would almost have to have one of those beings tell you, and there's people that are probably having relations that know how old they are. But like in the biblical days, what was it? Moses and Noah were like 500, 600, 700 years old. I mean, what was a year back then?
Right. We have no clue.
Yeah, we don't know. So that part I don't know. And we'll tell you one thing here that it will explain to a lot of people why you don't believe something, even though you kind of want to. From the day you come out of the birth canal till you're in your early 20s, you are educated, well, quote unquote, or told how the world is, what exists and what doesn't. So by the time you're old enough in your young 20s, by the time if you go to college, if not, you're a little younger, but you see something, a UFO, a dog man, a Sasquatch, a Mothman, whatever, chupacabra, whatever you see. Well, that can't be. I went to school and they tell me those stuff doesn't exist. It's a bunch of baloney. So it doesn't exist. So when you experience something, your mind is taking you somewhere else entirely. Well, that must be a bear. It must be a guy in a ghillie suit. It must be a deer standing on his hind legs eating fruit off a low-hanging tree or whatever. You explain it away and try not to think about it, and you go on about your business. So we're already programmed with the government and science telling us what is and what isn't. There's no UFOs. Oh, wait a minute. The government was lying to us for 80 years. There is UFOs. So it's going to be the same with Sasquatch. They know about the Sasquatch. The lumber companies, the paper companies, science. Why does science deny it? Well, who pays science's bills? The government grants pay 70% of the scientific research into Sasquatch. So we have no proof. They don't exist.
Because again, we can't handle the truth.
Yeah, it's a bunch of bullcrap. So we're pre-programmed to believe certain things, and it might take you another 10 or 15 years to unlearn and start having an open mind and saying, well, I've seen that twice now. There's something going on here. I mean, you just have to have a grasp of when you're being yanked, and some people don't. Some people have no interest and they go about their lives. They're perfectly happy with the way things are, the way they've been brought up, the church, the clergy, schools, colleges, the government, TV programming, all of that. You're happy with your life, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But if you want to continue to be lied to by the government and science and the paper and lumber companies, who all know what's going on. I got stories that, whether you believe them or not, they're pretty intriguing. But so that's why when you see or experience something, you immediately go over here. Well, that can't be, and so that's why it's so hard for people to do anything other than dumb ape. If you even go there, some people just go, they don't exist. There's no apes in North America. There's no great apes. There never was, never will be.
I said, I want to know, I agree with you about the government and scientists. Some scientists are the most closed-minded people you ever want to meet. It's got to go this route. The scientific method said it has to be this way, and anything outside of that doesn't exist.
Yep.
And that it can't work like that. No. If you're going to be closed-minded on everything, you're not going to get anywhere. But if you're completely open-minded on everything, you're also not going to get anywhere. You have to have a good balance between the two. Mm-hmm. You have to be somewhat skeptical, but also somewhat accepting to get to the right place to be able to believe or not believe either way to make a good decision. You know, that's one of the things that you have to be able to come up with your belief system based on you, not based on, you know, the neighbor down the street who says everybody's, you know, if you don't do this job, you don't know what in the hell you're talking about, you know, things like that. But we've got some more questions in the chat, which is great. Don Corleone, his name's actually Chad. Chad asks, do you enjoy the movie The Harry and the Hendersons? This has got him started researching Bigfoot.
Well, actually, I did enjoy the movie as a theatrical presentation, and it also is a way to keep the Sasquatch theory in the forefront. You know, between the Patterson-Gimlin film and some of the other, you know, really cheesy, hokey. But this had, you know, stars doing good acting and good writing, and of course, it's, you know, nonsensical in that, you know, but there are families that are having relationships with Sasquatch families. I have one in particular down in South Missouri. They've been shown their babies when they have newborn. So there is a correlation to it. You know, just like if you were to watch Close Encounters, how accurate is that really? It's just a movie, but it could be an exaggeration of a known event. I mean, we don't know, but you know, life imitates life, film imitates life, life imitates film. It's just one of those weird things that, you know, but I enjoyed it, and it kept it in the forefront, and it didn't show it as a mean, evil, snarling creature that wanted to rip your throat out. You know, so many depictions of Sasquatch are this snarling monster. Well, you know, that's a good way to keep people at bay with it too. You know,
it is. I mean, when I was giving birth to my second daughter, that's what I watched on TV was Harry and the Hendersons while I was in labor. So, the first kid, it was Ghostbuster, or no, the first kid, it was it's cartoons. Let's see, what was it called? Oh, He-Man. I was watching He-Man when I was in labor with the first kid, Harry and the Hendersons with the second one, Ghostbusters with the third one.
Well, it says something about your psyche.
Yeah.
And for $50 an hour, we can talk.
Yeah.
But you know, but that's good. That's therapy for you, and that's your release mechanism. You know, well, to cut down the stress, I'm going to watch a spooky movie or something funny because I'm fixing to belch forth another child. So I'm going to take my mind off things.
You only, I mean, at St. Joseph Medical Center, back then we only had like 6 channels. So, and it was in the middle of the night. There was the hockey playoffs were on one time when I was giving birth. And so needless to say, you had to have some noise on in the room. You can't just sit there and look at the damn clock the whole time. But we got another question from David. He asks, how do you feel about the idea that Sasquatch are interdimensional beings?
I believe that to be true.
You want to hear something funny? Way back when, in 1973, we had seen, you know, this clip on TV, black and white TV in Patterson, New Jersey. And I'm sitting there and I look at my mom and my dad and I go, you do know that he was brought here by spaceships, right? I'm 7 years old. I don't know. And nobody had said anything about this that I ever knew of until the last few years. You know, so, but in 73, I was already bound and determined that aliens and Bigfoot were interconnected.
It's possible. I've had, there's a chapter in my book. It's called Missing Time. And a gentleman up in the Northeast, very smart guy, successful businessman. Of course, the names are changed and all that kind of stuff. But he had 6 hours of missing time with a Sasquatch event. And I suggested to him, if he was curious, to get some hypnotic regression and find out what happened. and he doesn't want to know. He likes his life completely boring. It's a really fascinating story, and it makes no sense. But he's a very successful businessman, uh, and he's smart as a whip, and he's not a BSer by any way, shape, or form. And it's a very fascinating story. But there's 6 hours of missing time.
Mm-hmm.
And when he saw a Sasquatch, there was no UFO involved that he was aware of. Him and his police trained 110-pound German Shepherd were witness to this creature, being, I won't say creature because they're beings like us, was walking toward them. And his dog was given all the key commands: kill, go, get, stop. The dog just sat there, did nothing. It's like he was in a trance. And so this Sasquatch was walking at them. It's about 11 o'clock at night. And he'd been working on his, he lived in a cabin in the middle of the woods. He drove to his very successful business every morning, a couple hours. And his wife had just given birth, and she was pregnant with another child. So they had to enlarge their cabin they lived in. They loved living out there. So all the electricity was turned off while they were working on it. He was living in I think he said it was about a 30-foot trailer on his property that had electricity. And so this being was walking at them, and the dog just was paralyzed, just would do nothing. And so he retreated to this trailer, got in, locked the door, pulled the couch in front of the door, and then he realized, oh crap, I didn't get my gun. So he goes into the kitchen in this trailer and rummages around, finds a butcher knife. So him and the dog go lock themselves in the bathroom. And through the windows, he could see the creature walking around. It was kind of slapping on the thing, not to threaten him. He was just slapping on the thing. He's trying the door. He was walking around. He could see him through the windows. He was walking around and trying to get his attention. So they locked themselves in the bathroom. And if you know how big a bathroom is in a trailer, it ain't very big. So it was, with him and his big German Shepherd, it was full. So he sat there with this butcher knife straight out, pointing at the door, just waiting for him to crash through. He knew the thing was going to come in and kill him. That's all he could think of. That's about 11:30. 5:30 in the morning, he wakes up. He was in the same position, just like that, with his butcher knife. And the dog is next to him, leaning on him, and he's asleep. But dogs don't sleep sitting up, but he is out. He's in a trance. Mm-hmm. And when he wakes up and kind of startles, the dog kind of startles, and they look around, and the noise that woke him up was the workers getting there to work on the cabin the next morning. And his wife used to come about 6:30 every morning and cook everybody breakfast. And she'd go back to where she was staying with her folks, and they'd get to work, start the day off with a nice breakfast. 6 hours. He was completely refreshed. It's like it just happened, because, if you're sitting there like this all night, I mean, your arms are going to be stiff. I mean, he woke up, he was refreshed. There's no stiffness. The dog was kind of groggy, and like they'd been turned off. Interesting story, but there was no lights, there was no UFO, nothing that he could see, but he did not want to know what happened. He's afraid. I told him I've been hypnotically regressed, and I said, it's really worth it if you ever want to try it to find out. No, I don't want to know ever. He may later, but and he quit communicating with me after that because he thought I was probably going to bug him. But I wasn't. I was just saying, this is, if you really want to get to it, yeah. It might bother you more as you go down the road that you didn't do it, and you still can. Yeah. Than if you just do it and find it out, get the shock over, and then go about with your life.
Don asks here if you think some of, while I'm going with, while this guy has lost this time, do you think that there was some mind control or telekinetics going on at that point in time?
Could have been hypnotized. We don't know, but he did say the word snapped off. He was in the exact position. The lights were on. Nothing had happened. Everything was just like he had just locked himself in that room. So, and I've had something happen to me that I attribute really more to infrasound or hypnosis, some mental gymnastics, and it was funny. It was almost funny when it was happening, but it's really funny now, And so, I'll explain it if you got time.
We've got all kinds of time.
Do we take a break at 8 o'clock or something?
Right. Yeah, near the top of the hour.
Okay. So, I've got a lot of evidence and stuff and photographs here in my office. My wife shares an office. She's right over here, and so she sees all my stuff. And when I first started getting into this, it was just kind of, oh, that's okay, honey. She didn't say it's in so many words. I'm glad you got a hobby, honey. It was just, that's interesting. Oh, that's, I don't know. Well, okay, that's cool. And she's got a theological background. She was raised in parochial schools. And so she's biblically educated, and so she knows there is things going on, but she really doesn't delve into it. Anyway, So she was giving me some crap one night. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take you to one of my research areas, and let's see what you say after that. Now, of course, when you say something like that, nothing happens.
No, never does.
Yeah, it just never does. Well, this was not one of those times. So I took her to my area down in Ellington, and I've been there. Now, let me preface this. When I was leading an expedition for BFRO, I think it was my first or second one, I can't remember, 2013, I think. I was leading an expedition, and there was a big circle, and we started at one spot, and we were walking really slowly, and the other group was supposed to walk a little bit quicker and go make a bigger circle, and we're going to meet in the middle. Well, they got lost. The radios quit working because they were down in a holler. They took the wrong turn, even though I told them 48 times where to go. You go about 25 yards. There's a white ribbon on this tree. You go here, and you'll run into us. So while I was waiting for them, I was scanning the area with my thermal camera, and I'd quit recording because I was trying to save batteries. I was looking, I had it on just so I could see at night, but I wasn't recording because why record, trees and 8 other people standing around? Just, save a battery. It's, anyway. So I suddenly, I see this white heat signature coming around this bend on up about 75 yards ahead. I thought, oh God, finally they're here. Geez, oh God, thank goodness they're here. And so I'm looking, and all of a sudden this white heat signature comes around the curve. It isn't them. It's a Sasquatch, pure and simple. It is, the heat signature was definitive. And I was like, oh, awesome.
And of course, you're not recording.
And the second step it took, it exploded and just vanished. It was like a flash bulb went off. The entire, if you're familiar with thermal cameras, it's a white outline of a humanoid shape. I mean, it's a Sasquatch. It's a white, and it just poof, it went out. And there was a flashlight. And what happened was there was like a little smoke ring. It looked like somebody blew a Sasquatch smoke ring, and the ring just kind of dissipated into the night. It was gone.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was just like, of course, I was with a bunch of, apers at the time. Most of the Missouri people here are apers. They probably still are. They don't believe in anything close to that. They might say they do, but they really don't, because I know how they operate. So anyway, so that area became my research area because I had another gentleman who I had 2 Class A reports. He had 2 visual daylight sightings in that very same area. And so that became my research area. By the way, I've had 100 reports published to BFRO. Published. I probably interviewed 350 to 400 witnesses and counting. I mean, I've been around the block. So this became my research area. But when I took my wife there, and I'd gone several times before, and probably 95% of the time, something happens. Something always happens. I know they live there. They know that I know they live there. When I go there, I treat it like their living room. I'm respectful. I'm quiet. I don't, hunt indiscriminately. I don't hunt at all, but I don't trash the place. I'm respectful of nature and their environment. So I took her, and what I did was, is this really steep ravine that you walk down, and if you walk down this ravine, then it planes out and it walks around this curve, which is where I saw that Sasquatch walk around that night. So I went to the other end to see, how and why it got to where it was. So anyway, I backed my SUV up to this big metal gate. There's a big metal gate on this ravine because people used to drive down there and they got tired of rescuing people. You can't drive. It's nasty and rocky and sharp and jagged. It's a place to walk and enjoy nature. So we pull up and the metal gate's blocking the way. You can't get in. And so we start walking down the ravine. It's about 11 o'clock at night. And immediately my wife's going, let's go. I can't stand it. Something's creeping me out. I can't stand it. Well, just relax. This happens all the time. It happens to me. I get it. I feel what you're feeling. We're here in an area and they just happen to be here tonight. Of course, when I told her I was taking somewhere, I'll show you. Well, of course, I'd be making a fool of myself. Nothing happened. Well, tonight was different. So we're walking down there, and as we go each step, she's going, I'm creeping. I'm going back. I'm going back to the car. I said, no, 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 no. Look, the car's just right up there. There's nothing. And I'm looking, and I shine a light up at the gate, and my car is gone. Where the hell's my car? What's going on? And I'm looking down at the bottom of the ravine, which is stupid. I just look just to see, and there is my car backed in to the ravine at the bottom. And I'm going, how did my car get down there? And my wife's looking at it and goes, what do you mean? Your car's not down there. It's up there. And I look back up. I'm going, my car is not there. It's gone. What's going on? And I started figuring out what was going on. I shined the light back down there. I said, there's my car. How did we get down there? Am I missing something? And this happened 2 or 3 times. And she's freaking out even worse because I had seen something that's not there. And when I'm shining the light up where my car was, where it wasn't now, she's seeing it, and I'm shining it down where it couldn't possibly be, and I'm seeing it, and she's going, there's nothing there. So this went on about 3 or 4 times, and I suddenly going, oh, crap. They're messing with me. You guys are good. You guys are good. You're jacking with me. So I was seeing something, and, I attributed it at the time to infrasound or some type of hypnosis. So after this exchange, and she's going, you are out of your mind. We are leaving. And so I shot, look, the car is not there. I shine my light back up there, and there it was where it should have been. I shine the light back down where I saw it. It was gone. It was never there in the first place.
So a little bit of mind control going on there.
Mind control or infrasound or, something of that, ilk. But I made a believer out of her.
Oh, yeah. So one of the things that Don Corleone says again, this goes back to when we were talking about we said mind control, things like that, telekinetics. He asks, and this is the 6 hours, the 6-hour time period that the guy was holding the knife. Do you believe there was some time continuum manipulation at that point?
It could be. It could be that only 5 minutes elapsed in his world, but he woke up.
The clock said 6 hours.
6 hours ahead of where he was. So, but the fact that he was refreshed and it looked like he felt there was no tension. I mean, he stood up. If you're squatted down for 6 hours in one position, you know how sore you're going to be.
Oh yeah.
So there was no effect of what he thought was 6 hours. When they made me see something, they were just showing me who's boss and what they can do. Now, I've been zapped a few times before where I was, paralyzed, couldn't get out of my bag, sleeping bag. I had to get up and take a pee one morning, 5:30, and I couldn't get out of my bag because I heard something walking by my tent, and I thought it was a fellow researcher who's camped about 25 yards away from me. Anyway, so yeah, it's entirely possible. They can change their vibrational frequency. They can appear and disappear. They can appear to disappear and still be there. It's a manipulation. It's all it gets into quantum physics and quantum mechanics, quantum math, quantum science, and that's a whole other thing. If you ever want a really good interview on that subject, get Ron Moorhead on your show. He eats, sleeps, and drinks that. He understands it, and his Sierra Sounds has nothing to do with that. It has to do with them being able to come and go, and the reason that they appear to do certain things can only be from manipulation of our portals, our dimensions, our time as we know it, space, and but that was one of the best examples I have had of the ability to make you think you are seeing something that you are not seeing. Just as though they can appear to walk behind a tree and they never come out the backside. They walk into a tree and disappear into the tree.
And then in that case, is there a portal behind that tree? Can they instantly make portals appear?
I don't know if they can instantly make them. I think there are probably strategic areas in a forest, as there are in the planet. I mean, there could be a portal behind a quick trip down the road, if you know how to manipulate things. I mean, that part we just don't know. Science will admit to 4 dimensions. They will admit to up to 11, and some theoretically you say there's up to 20 to 21 dimensions.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, height, weight, depth, and time are the 4 dimensional concepts that we humans experience and are familiar with. But past that, it gets into that area where you're taught that can't be. So that just goes the other way.
So David, he asked a question. Well, comment. When you talked about Bigfoot being there and then not being there and having this bright light where he was it, do you think that's related to like the spook light phenomenon? That maybe
I don't think so. That's particularly, I don't think so, because I saw it walking. It wasn't a spook light. I saw the full thermal heat signature.
No, I think he's saying that when it dissipated, could that be what we're seeing as spook lights?
Oh, it could be. If you didn't see it walking up and all you saw was that explosion, that could be. I just happened to see it, and I happened to be looking for it because I was looking for my lost expedition goers. Who paid good money. I didn't want to have them die in the middle of the night in some strange woods. I wanted them to be able to go home to the loved.
Yeah, you kind of don't want to lose when you're a tour guide leader. You don't want to lose your.
Yeah, it'd be
tough.
They
kind of frown on that. They get mad.
I might have done my last expedition. I might have been my first and last.
That's kind of how it was when we were doing tours at the Sally House. I was always counting everybody as they were coming out to make sure I had everybody I went in with.
Yeah, there's just too many things going on. Whether it's Sasquatch, ghosts, Dogman, the Pale Whites, Chupacabra, Mothman, any of the other entities. There's too many things going on, and it's not that we're wanting these things. That people that are having these experiences with Sasquatch and other beings, they're not looking for it. Some are, but very few are. Most are just camping in the woods, having a good time. All of a sudden, and you're not looking for it. Mm-hmm. So when you see it, you're shocked and appalled and scared. You don't know what to do with yourself. So this stuff's happening. Daylight apparitions. We've got so many weird things going on in our house since 2019, when I had an aha moment with my expedition that further cemented the knowledge that I am dealing with intelligent, sapient, sentient beings that can think, reason, and speak. Like Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. So it's one of those things where you just know it. I can't explain a lot of it, but I know what I saw. And you can't, and with anybody, what you experienced, your dark thing you saw, which you weren't sure was a Sasquatch, it's your reality. You saw whatever it was.
Yeah.
I can't take that away from you. Nobody can. You saw something you can't explain. Maybe it was a deer, maybe it was.
We'll talk about that after the break, because you said something to me when we were talking on the phone, and it's been months at this point. So I figure it's probably good to bring up and talk about. So I'm going to ask you another question. This one's from Gary, and he asks, when in the woods, what is the best thing to listen for?
That's a good question. If you're just listening and not creating noise, whistles, knocks, rock clacking, those are the three things that will stand out. Incredibly, they can mimic any animal in the animal kingdom. They can mimic a car. I've got a great story about that. They can mimic anything. So anything that seems out of place, a really loud owl, because they love, in coyotes, the same thing. They love communicating by communicating with other Sasquatch in between owl calls or coyote calls. They can mimic any animal, so they can make it sound just like it, but they're considerably louder. So anything that's just kind of out of place, chatter, there's certain birds that do not call at night. And so there's just things that, are out of place. But if you just sit and listen, twig snapping, there's one thing a Sasquatch can't do is walk in the dark and not break a twig when it's walking. I mean, you hear this, or bipedal walking. You can hear a deer walking and shuffling through the leaves and stuff like that, bear. But if you ever hear bipedal walking, you only have two choices, man or Sasquatch. I mean, you just don't have that many choices when you hear footsteps, bipedal instead of quadruped.
Right. Because there's not many things that walk on 2 feet.
No, you don't. So you only have a couple of options, and
for short periods you could have a bear or a raccoon, but only short periods, because they're too off kilter when they're on 2 feet.
Yeah, you want to know an animal that makes a whole lot of racket. We have them here now. Is armadillos.
Oh, they make a shitload of noise.
They blow through a forest. It'll sound like a herd of horses, because they don't see well and they just run amok, and they just sit knocking stuff and breaking stuff. So, but you listen to the forest. You'll know if you camp a lot and you're familiar with something. You'll know when something's out of place, and that's that out of place thing that lets you know. Because they can mimic anything, you have to just be real careful about it.
Another question we have is from Jane. She asks, do Sasquatches have families?
Yes, yeah, they do. They have their clans. I think we have called them clans because we don't call them family, because that's giving too many human qualities to them. But they do have family. They got mates, children. Obviously, they have families because they have to procreate and reproduce. But my family down one of my research areas, they were shown a baby. I mean, it was nothing other than a very small, looked like a chimp, being held by the mother. They stood out from behind a tree and showed him, then went back behind the tree. My guy, the husband, walks his dog every morning around 7:30. He walks from the house. It's about a quarter mile to the gate where he gets his mail. Then he walks back, and that's how the dog walks. And many times he has seen them, that he will hear them before he sees them. He'll look over, and it's in the woods. And I've been there. There's a spring right there. I think that's where they get a lot of their fresh water. But he's seen them there several times, and he's seen them moving around in shadows in the dark, even though it's early morning. But they are not afraid to let him see them, and they have shown them the proud parents of a baby Sasquatch. I would love to be able to see that, but hearing the story, I make them tell it almost every time because I love hearing the story, because it was just like they're part of the family, they're part of the gang, type to have that kind of trust, you know. So of course, some people listening to this are going, "Yeah, baloney," you know.
Well,
But
it's no different than a cat bringing, a stray cat bringing you their kittens to show them to you.
mhm.
We had a stray cat in the neighborhood, a couple of them, and all of a sudden she brought us her kittens. We didn't know why, but when she brought them to us, I took that as a sign that she needed help at that point, and we kept them and we found them homes.
Yeah.
But I think she was ready to either share them with us or get rid of them. I don't know which one,
Mhm.
but we took care of them and got them homes.
Yeah.
So we have
Got some
another.
great questions on here.
Yeah, we have another question here from Don. What would you estimate the North American population of Sasquatch to be?
That's been a hot topic. My personal opinion, probably not any less than 250,000. And that sounds like a lot, but it's really not. If
Not
you
for the amount of space that we have in. I
think,
mean, when you're thinking North America, that's all of Canada.
we
Yeah.
have in the United States of America 750 some odd million acres of uninhabited, mostly unexplored land, like forests, and that's not counting Canada. So, and if there's a cave system below, ground, so they could be hunkered down in the caves and come out whenever they feel like and go back down to where we can't go, you know. And for a long time, I didn't believe they would use. If I was me, I would not use a cave that did not have a back way out because I wouldn't want to be trapped if humans were coming after me. But then again, I'm the alpha predator. There's not much that can kill me or hurt me, including most guns. So I'm not going to be really afraid. But I always thought that, well, the cave system would be too confining because you would not have a way out. But some of these are miles deep or long. And so who's to say? So I would say conservatively 250,000 in the North American continent. And I'll throw Canada in there too. Some people think 10, 20,000 at the most. Some people think a couple of million. There's no way of knowing, the last census guy chickened out and said, "I'm not doing this." Just kidding. I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? I mean, there's no way to know, but you just think for a breeding population to exist. And actually, I was reading a very, very interesting chapter in a story. It's called Enoch. It's by Autumn Williams. You read that book? She's and her mother. They both had Sasquatch interactions for decades when they lived in Washington. And there's a theory that the Sasquatch get together one time a year, quite possibly when all the females are in heat or the young females are of age to mate, and they get together in big, big groups in very, very hard to find, hard to get to canyons and caves. And it's basically they mate and they share food and they give comfort, and they meet again and they give birth because it's done as a communal thing for safety, but they're all gathering food and coming together for this event, and then they dissipate to come back again when the gestation period's over to give birth. Because sometimes if you're isolated like that, it's hard to find a mate, and so they may have a convention of sorts and get together those that need mates or those that need to give birth, and they have these big calving sessions, so to speak. It was an interesting theory, because it talked about
they're just following along with the Greeks and the Romans on the orgy part.
yeah, and the birds and the bees,
So.
But here's the thing: there's three key abductions of humans that say they were abducted. The Albert Osman. There was another one I can't remember, and there's one I heard about that I was not familiar with. It was out of Washington in the 60s, Washington State. So long story short, all these men were kidnapped, taken to these areas that they had no idea where they were till they were there for a while. And there was Sasquatch walking all over 20, 30, 40, 50, just walking around like they own the place. It's a canyon that's boxed in that has one entrance and one exit only. It's only one way in and one way out, one way, and it's hidden. And it's got rock shelves and it's got vegetation growing. You would never know it was there if you didn't know it was there. So, and they were kidnapped and held captive there for 2 or 3 weeks until they finally found a way. But each of them described large numbers of Sasquatch just roaming around like they owned the place. Like it was, they weren't hiding. They weren't trying to kill them or get at them. They were in a group of 20 or considerably more. So this is when the theory of, well, maybe they get together for these, birthing and impregnation things, because if you're isolated, like I said, you don't have a mate, it's hard to find food and stuff like that. So you get together and everyone kind of takes care of one another,
I can see that. I mean, it sounds like a family reunion kind of type situation.
Yeah. The Native Americans even alluded to it in some of their tales. So it's very interesting. I mean, you don't know, So we got to take a break.
Yep, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. So if you guys want to watch the commercial, great, please do. If you want to go get yourself a drink and come back, please do that as well. So we'll be back with Carter here in just a few moments.
5 minutes?
No, I think it's like 2.
Okay, I'll be in and out. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rex.
And I'm Shane.
We have a new show on the Bill of Rights Network. It is called Music, Movies, and Maybe More.
We explore bands that we've heard of that a lot of people haven't, that we feel like you should know about.
And we do the same with movies. There's a lot of movies out there that we know about that other people should know about as well.
And as for the maybe more part, you never know what else we can come up with.
So, on the Bill of Rights Network, every Saturday night, live at 7 p.m. Central Time, Music, Movies, and Maybe More will be on. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you there. Now we'll return you back to Paranormal Pride and Denise Pridemore.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your excursion to wherever it is you went. Hopefully you did not get picked up by a portal on the way back to the show. So
I was kind of hoping. I've got a very busy day tomorrow. I don't want to do any of my stuff, so I'd rather just be taken.
You know what? I'm on vacation in a few days, and I don't want to be working tomorrow. Today, we went on a family reunion up to Iowa. All that corn, we didn't see any Bigfoots, but, we did see a lot of things that we can hold over family members' heads for quite a while.
Yeah.
From the family reunion. It made it really fun. But I'm still tired from the family reunion. So instead of working today, I took a nap.
That's good.
Got paid to take a nap. Who knew? But
I want to show you something.
Please.
You won't see anything like this.
And what is that? It looks like the base of a tree. Okay.
It's a hand. It's a Sasquatch hand.
Oh wow. And where did you get that at, or find that at?
Top secret. I'll have to kill you.
Okay. So but you got that personally, right?
I got it given to me. I've been to the site.
Okay.
A preacher got this photo,
Okay.
and I've been there. Actually, I taped what I think might be a pilot for a future show there about 3 weeks ago, and they were so impressed with that photo that they changed from where they were going to shoot an entirely different event to my location or their location. So that is one of the most clear photos I've ever seen of a Sasquatch hand.
Well, I can't wait to see it when we come down to Joplin in October or
It's
in September up here in Independence.
September, because I sell a lot of books at those things, and you'll see it there. But it was mind blowing. And here's the weird part: the guy that owns the land, he has some injuries from his former profession, so he can't get around as well as he'd like. So he lets this pastor hunt on his land. And in return for hunting on the land, he gives him some of his kill. And the owner has about 30 cameras, maybe about 28 now. I think and what he does is have them 3 cameras facing each other. So there's about a 20-foot area. There's a tree with a camera on it, and there's another tree with a camera on it. Then here's my face. There's another camera on this tree. So they're all facing each other. So if anything walks through there, you don't miss anything. They get a lot of deer that way. Well, one day the pastor was walking the land. He felt like something was following him. And so he walked into this clearing, and that's where the set of cameras was. And he got his picture was taken. He knew that. He didn't care. He just walked. And so he felt like something was following him, but he just kept hearing it, but didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So he went around. What he was doing was collecting the SD cards out of the cameras, take them back, look at them all, see if there's anything of any interest on there, and then they go back and put them in. Well, when he took that card out and put it in his computer, there was that hand, and that hand picture was taken 10 to 12 seconds after he had walked by and got his picture taken from the knee down. The camera was about 3 feet off the ground, so I took a picture. So whatever it was right behind him. And
Very much so.
It got the hand. That is, when you see it in person in this book, it'll blow your mind. I mean, you may try to tell yourself it's something else, but this production company, it's a big one. They saw that, they put the brakes on and decided to come to this area instead of
another area
where they were going.
So we do, because you just brought up the book, we have a question. Where can people find your books?
You can go to www.relichominid.com. RELICHOMINID.com. Now, if you buy them off my website,
can you spell that again? One more. I got relic, spell hominid.
HOMINID. It's relic hominid, RELICHOMID.com. I'm selling them, they're $22 a piece. So with shipping, if you buy both, it's like $50. if you email me personally, I sell them both for $35 and I eat the shipping. Because my website is one of those e-commerce sites, so they have to charge so much because they get a little money off of what I'm doing. So if you buy them straight from me, or you can go to, I have a book deal with Beyond the Fray Publishing. I don't know if you heard of them. You can buy the Kindle version for like, what is it, $5? But these are very, very nicely done. They're glossy paper, full color. I autograph them. There's some really good stuff in here.
So if they want to get it from you directly, how would they get that directly from you?
You would email me at funnybones442.cb, my initials, Carter Buschardt, at Gmail. And you just email me, and that's my PayPal account.
Okay, so I got here funnybones442. Did you say .cb?
Yeah, my initials at Gmail.
Okay, so is there a dot between 442 and CB?
Yes, funnybones442.cb at Gmail.
That's what
you
I got.
Go to PayPal, enter that, and put $35 in there. That'll save you really $20, and most of that is shipping. You know, this covers my cost of my book, and I eat the shipping, which is no big deal. Beyond the Fray, Shannon LeGros, and there's a lot of people that have book deals with Beyond the Fray. They sell my black and white books, on the pulp paper, like paperback paper.
Right.
These are very nice. They're very shiny. They're all color photographs, and some killer stories in there, artwork.
I remember seeing them on your table when you still had some. They had looked really nice. So, and here's what David asked. He's asking, will you have them at the Paracon in October?
Yeah, okay, I'm speaking there. Yeah, so I'll have them at the Paracon.
So we're going to go back to some more of these questions because we've got, I know we got 45 minutes left, but we got lots of questions.
Goes quick, doesn't it?
It does. You're yapping away, which is great.
I won't shut up.
Go for it. I love it. So David says he will say that diving into the subject of Sasquatch firsthand had really opened his eyes to some new thoughts and ideas. Not really a question, but a comment that is very in tune with what we're talking about. Yeah.
It's shocking that there is something like this going on in the world, among other things, of course, metaphysical, paranormal wise, quantum wise, the UFO thing, for instance, it's amazing that there's an undercurrent of things going on in the world, and a lot of this stuff, unless you're really interested, it just kind of blows by.
Yeah, it does. With the family reunion, a lot of this stuff, paranormal stuff came up during the family reunion. I mean, so much so that the family goes, we want to go someplace haunted. And we're in between the Liska Axe Murder House and Malvern Manor. We have 15 people, 16. Where am I going to go? I'm probably going to go to Malvern Manor because it's bigger. So we ended up on our family reunion going to a haunted location just to give a tour to people. And so it was kind of funny. But, they want, we had family members ask for readings during it. And it's like, okay, whatever. If that's what you want. We had fun. So we have some more stuff from David. He asked, do you see any correlation between Bigfoots and the giants mentioned by the Native American tribes?
Yeah, I think, they had a symbiotic relationship until the white man came along with the Sasquatch people. I think they traded, food, hunting areas, and they had a relationship. They were both protectors of the land and the way of life, and take only what you need. No thrill kill. Don't ruin the land that gives you food and water, because that's all you've got. When that's gone, it's gone. So that was their whole symbiotic relationship. When white man came along and started killing the Indians for their land, I'm paraphrasing, but that kind of drove the Sasquatch away. And although they were still maintaining a relationship with the Native Americans, it was damaged just by them having to go away. The white man could kill the Indians; they could not kill the Sasquatch. So,
And my family was on that Trail of Tears.
yeah, well, that's where this was, and I tell you what.
So is any of the areas that you talk about in your books in the Tahlequah area?
This would be the Trail of Tears in Illinois.
Okay, because we live currently on the Potawatomi Trail of Death.
Yeah.
Doesn't it sound like a nice place to be?
Yeah. Well, when I took the expedition in 2019, it was the Trail of Tears where about 94 Native Americans froze to death trying to get to the Mississippi River. And it was so bitterly cold. What Indian protective groups, mostly pastors and clergy and people who were sympathetic to their plight because they were made to march from Tennessee or North Carolina, wherever it was that they started, and went all the way across trying to get to the Mississippi. So, but they would have food, horses, clothing for them at certain intervals so that they could make the journey without having to forage for themselves. It was just hard enough making that march on top of giving birth, burying your dead, hunting, cooking. I mean, it was just too much. So they had groups. Well, this one group got cut off because of the cold, and a lot of people died in this area. So where I went, there's a really good story there. You probably have a lot of questions and stuff, so that we might have to do another show at some time. But
yeah, we will definitely. Ron, my husband, who's right here, he asked a question about, do you have any recordings of the hoops and stuff that the Sasquatch make?
I have a few, and honestly, I consider them to be like not that big a deal, because you can go and you can go online and hear all kinds of sounds that are probably more definitive than mine, like the Ohio moan howls.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you can go to the BFRO.net website, and they have some of those recordings on there. But you can Google Bigfoot sounds, thermal images and stuff. You can get some pretty good stuff, but they don't sound like that much when you listen to them on tape. Yeah, there you go.
Yes. So this is, Carl said it's the BFRO sightings in Missouri.
Yeah. You go by county, and then you just click on, I've got 100 reports published. I do Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, and Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. 4 states.
So the 4-state region.
Yeah.
So there we go, guys. There's some more stuff for you to look at. So since we're talking about Missouri and Kansas, I will definitely finish up you guys' questions. I'm not going to forget about them. So one of the questions that I have is, comments. When we talked on the phone months ago at this point, we talked about something that I saw. In December, I was driving between Lewisburg and Cleveland, Missouri, or Westline, Missouri. And I'm on 68, and there is this thing that's beside me on the north side of the road running. So first I see it go across the road and then run down the road. I don't see it anymore. I keep going. I go over the railroad tracks, and I turn onto to go north towards Cleveland, Missouri. And, Westline's on one side. I see this thing go across the road again on 2. And that means that it had to be going at least as fast as I was going, and I was going 60 miles an hour. I don't know what this was, but it took the road in 3 steps. And it's a 2-lane road with a wide shoulder on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it just before the Missouri state line going east. So maybe it might be 3 minutes from there to the stop sign,
Mm-hmm.
and then the turn. So what you told me that there's sightings of something in our area. What is down here in Lewisburg, Cleveland, Missouri area?
Sasquatch. It could have been a dog man, and I've just gotten a couple of reports. Would have been a year and a half, 2 years ago, with during a Sasquatch sighting, and after the Sasquatch sighting, the guy said, "Now I know. I'm going to tell you something that you ain't going to believe." And so I go, "Well, you just told me you saw a Sasquatch, a creature that doesn't believe. You're not going to freak me out. Bring it on. Let's hear it." And so he saw a dog man. He described it very clearly and succinctly. This would be somewhere in the neighborhood of Amarugia. I don't know if you're familiar with Amarugia. If you go straight down, I'm in Liberty. If I go straight down 435 and hit 49 and go straight south, Cleveland, and then west a little bit, there's a place called Amarugia. And there's down there, it's old Indian lore that there are dogman or shapeshifters.
Okay.
The thing is, when you see something like that, Denise, what do you think you're seeing if there's no way that a creature that can run that fast, and they've been clocked at 50 to 55 miles an hour. I had one running one of my reports. It was in Kansas and near Wichita. Somebody was going to Arkansas for Christmas or Thanksgiving, I think, and she was driving south. Yeah, Wichita, I-35, and then there's a highway you take that cuts over to Arkansas. It's kind of a shortcut, and I can't remember what it was.
That's a long cut to me. But
yeah, but for her, where her family is, I mean, that's, it's at the Arkansas.
I know the area. I know where she's going. Probably Lincoln.
Where she was going was a shortcut. I don't know where it was, but it was a shortcut in her world,
Yeah.
I mean, she had worked in missions in Africa, and she'd seen and was quite familiar with apes, gorillas, chimps, all of that. She, orangutan, very familiar with all that. And this creature was running along I-35, heading the same way south from Kansas City, or from Wichita, and trying to get across the highway. And it was so crowded with holiday traffic at the time. It was like 5 o'clock, 5:30. Friday afternoon, and everybody was hauling ass getting out of town. And it was running along. It was running along in the ditch alongside the highway, trying to find a way to go across. And then it finally gave up and went up back up toward the Flint Hills. So what does your mind think of when you saw that? Logically, you're gonna try to tell yourself that didn't happen.
Logically, my brain was telling me that it was as big as a big bear, but a bear can't run that fast on 2 feet. Can't run that fast on 4 feet.
Nope.
But I didn't know what I was seeing because it was starting to get dark. It's about 5 o'clock at night in December. We're at the point where, 4:30, it's getting dark. 5 o'clock, it's dark.
Yeah.
Around this time of year. And the only reason I can remember when it was is because I had a rental car. My car was in the shop. Yeah. And it was just before Christmas. So I knew that it was somewhere in the time where we have our shortest day of the year. And it was getting dark. So did I just see something out of the corner of my eye? Did I see a tree? Did I see, this? My mind went to all these different things that it could be, but I came home. David was actually doing a show that night, and I said something to David that this is what I saw, because David's co-host, Charlie, also a friend of ours, real good friend, probably closer than a lot of people. He lived in Westline at one time. So his family still lives there. So I had to say something about what I saw, but it was just, I didn't know what I saw. And that's the only thing I could tell my husband is, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't anything that I'd ever seen before, but I couldn't see it clear enough to give you a description other than it was big, it was fast, and it did. One thing I can remember is that its legs did not look like tree trunks. It looked like it was in pretty good shape to be running that fast, I guess. I couldn't tell how tall this thing was because there were trees and stuff off the road, and I don't know how big these trees are. But I'm also driving in the car by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who knows 69, or, when it goes through Lewisburg, it's called Amity, or 68 highway, there's a lot of 18-wheelers on there coming between the Harrisonville and the Ottawa Walmart distribution centers.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to pay real close attention.
Sure.
But again, my mind went to, I don't know, but I'm going to say something.
What did you say it was? I mean, was it bipedal, 2 legs?
Yes, it was 2 legs.
Okay, so you've boiled it down to either a Sasquatch, another type of cryptid, or a human. So it's one of the 3. There is what I was talking about earlier, the mental challenge of undoing everything you've been taught. And that can't be because it just doesn't exist. It can't be that. It's got to be something else.
I even thought, well, was it an alien? Like I said, I did not know. Mm-hmm. And I still would like to know what it was. But talking about that, you had said something about Dogman, and Dave here wants to know what is a Dogman?
Well, Dogman, I've just now started getting a few reports. And so Dogman is an upright canid that walks and runs on 2 legs. They are about the same size, probably a little smaller than Sasquatch. You hear differing reports on the legs, either being the backward legs like dogs or walking hominid-like with 2 legs that are with their knees bending forward instead of bending backward. So I've only taken 2 reports, but both people were adamant that's what they saw in the area that they both saw them at, which was Cleveland-ish. If you go straight down 49, you're not that far from 69 by the time they kind of go that way. So the theory is that they are a lesser, I don't even say related to, but they're just another cryptid, mythical creature that people left and right, the Midwest, like Illinois, Pennsylvania, Ohio, they got Dogman reports coming out the ears. It's crazy. It's kind of like Sasquatch here. So there's a theory, and I believe this theory, that we are in an age of knowing, and we are in an age of revelation, not biblically, but and I believe these beings live in other portals or dimensions that are, for them, just a hop skipping away from us. I mean, they could be standing right next to you, but they're in an entirely different dimension. That's just the part that we can't wrap our heads around. And I think for locations of portals, you follow the ley lines that are all over the world. That may be a starting point, and maybe the ley lines have ley lines, and they keep branching off. So these beings are coming and going as we are getting smarter, as we're getting more technology in our own little hands, our phones for one thing, and just other, thermal cameras and all the other stuff that the ghost hunting people use. There's cameras and equipment now that can sense things that we can't even see. We can hear, we can feel it internally. So I think we're in an age of discovery now, where this stuff's coming left and right. And maybe it's coming to a head because the world, as you know, right now is not a really fun place. Overall, there's just too much turmoil and tension. There's war. There's, we're destroying the planet, the global warming, the ice shelves are melting, animals are disappearing left and right. They're going extinct right in front of us because we just don't care about the planet like we should. And, the greenhouse gases, all that stuff, and all the turmoil, the financial stuff, the government, the American government. There's just so much going on that people trying to find some solace, and they're starting to look into other things to explain the world around us, because everybody knows somebody who has seen or experienced a cryptid or metaphysical creature. You don't know it maybe, but everybody does. You just may not know it because people won't talk about it because they don't want to be ridiculed.
Well, the thing is a lot of this stuff is a really decent distraction from all the BS that's irritating us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, so not to be political, there's a lot of things out there that are making a bunch of us angry. People who are normally even keeled, don't care about most things, just, happy with, you can't really irritate them. Mm-hmm. Right now, there's a lot of irritated people out there, and you're seeing more road rage incidents. And I think that everybody needs to have something that's going to distract them from the stuff that irritates the life out of them. So
I don't disagree with that. And here's one thing I'll qualify that is that this stuff was going on before this turmoil.
Yes, it was.
It's been going on for a long time. What was that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, Ron's in the kitchen, so it was probably the recycling.
Oh, well, he may have just dropped your dinner. Hope not.
No, dinner. Long story short, I'm not hungry these days. So he's lucky that I make dinner. Yeah,
well, I'll do all the cooking in my house, but that's a whole nother story. But the thing is that this has been going on for a long time, and it's been buried. And once we've become aware that the government has been lying to us and continues to lie about everything that's going on, whether it's political, anthropological, creatures. I'll see you in October too, Gary. But there's things going on, and now, like you said, we need a distraction. But you're going to start paying attention to the things you were probably thinking about paying attention to anyway. Yeah. Well, I don't care what my neighbor says. I'm going to start paying attention to this stuff.
Right. It's like when they came out with the alien, all the stuff about UFOs.
Yeah.
So how many years did they lie about that?
80 at least.
Right. So we've got all this stuff going on that they were telling us, don't look here, this doesn't exist. And now here's a highly redacted stuff talking about aliens. So, it makes you wonder what else we're being lied to about. If we wanted to talk about conspiracies, there's a whole buttload of them out there. But, I would say prior to 3 years ago, I was one of those, whatever, I wasn't a big conspiracy theorist, but I became one over a lot of things. And like I said, I'm not going to get political because this isn't the place to do that. Nope. So, but, again, this is leading into what we just talked about being lied to about things that people had seen, heard, felt, abductions, things like that. Why did we have to be lied to? And we'll go back to Jack Nicholson. We were told we couldn't handle the truth. And I think we can handle a lot more than they think we can. And those that can't handle the truth, they're going to go right back and put their head in the sand just like they've done before.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is. So we're going to go back to the rest of these questions. And David says, with all the DNA that has been tested and come up unidentified or as a primate, shouldn't there be a database of those samples to compare other samples to?
There should be, but there's not. So when you test, I've got several hair samples sitting here. I'm not going to send them away because I'll never see them again.
No.
The number one is very expensive, but here's the deal. When you send in hair samples or blood or scat, let's go back to this. Hair only. Hair will give you 50% female, the mitochondrial DNA, and 50% unknown hominid. It always comes back as that. Science says we do not have a type specimen, therefore there's no database with which to compare. That's their way out. It's bullshit, but that's their way out. We don't have a type specimen. I guarantee you they do. I guarantee you the government does. I guarantee you that they know exactly what's going on with them. So there's no type specimen, so they have nothing to compare it to. But all the hair samples, now the blood and stuff of that nature, scat degrades very quickly. So you have to be there while it's steaming. Get it in a bag and get somewhere. I carry a DNA kit with me at all times. I have a DNA kit in my car. I can take scat, I can take blood, hair, you name it, and I've got it, and I can keep it clean and sterile until I find the right place. But there's no type specimen, so they always say that, and that's mostly with hair. About 80% of everything that gets tested is hair. Now, some people have connections and can get it tested, and they have proof that this is a known creature because it comes up, the sample that says unknown hominid contributor.
Because it's saying hominid right there.
Yeah, well, 70-80% of the time, it has the same characteristics as an unrelated sample sent to him by somebody else 2 years ago. It's in the same tree, but they can't. Couldn't one request? No, because they're privately done, and people pay money. They don't want to get them out, and most of the time they just say, "We don't have any type specimen. We can't tell you what it is. It's unknown hominid." It could be a hairy Greek person with hair on his back. And I have a lot of hair on my back. I won a hairy man contest on a cruise once, so I'm just a little poor old white boy, but I got hair. But anyway, the whole point is they have a way of evading identification, and if you're going to send it off to Dirk Steine, hey Carter, hey, what's going on? But they have ways of dissuading you from revealing it, especially if you send it off to anything that's university or science who's backed by the government. You send it off to those guys, you'll never see it again. Most people, 95% of them, they never see their samples again. Oh, we lost it. We don't know what happened to it. But trust us, there was nothing there. So,
well, that's what you ought to do. Is one of those. There's these places that can tell you what health issues you have. Yeah. Maybe we can send it off and find out if they have high cholesterol and things like that. What kind of diseases are because you may not get your sample back, but you'll at least get a report.
Yeah, well, here's something. The fantasy that I have was just to get a swab of a Sasquatch after he was eating on a dead deer, and I send it off to, what is it, Ancestry.com.
Yeah.
And they send me back, well, that is a primordial being from 4,000 years ago that doesn't exist. But, of course, that'll never happen.
No. because
But they have the wherewithal to do that. But they're in cahoots with the government because the government, they have a deal. They have to turn over their DNA samples if it is in the prevention of crime.
Yeah. So David says, funny thing is, the evidence that they disclosed was old. We know they have better info somewhere. So
Of course they do.
Same part of this topic that we're talking about. It's just weird, the stuff that is, we're not, again, not being
told. They're sitting on the gold mine, and I have stories, in this second book, I've got a story with a guy who was on a Canadian tree planting group. 12 guys. 6 guys went to one area, and British Columbia, Canada is one of the worst offenders as far as replanting the forests that they plunder. So they had these big tree planting groups that go out and just replenish all, they plant saplings everywhere. My guy was on a crew of 12, divided into 2 groups of 6. He went to one area, they saw a bunch of footprints, and the story's too long to tell. But the other group decided to go further back into the forest, and they came running out, frightened to death. They encountered Sasquatch, and they ran them off. And the foreman came back to pick them up, and they had done virtually no work because they were all totally freaked. So they took them all to the regional forest office for this lumber company. And they interviewed them each one by one. And basically they told them, you don't say a word about this, or you will never be employed in Canada again. You say nothing. And they knew exactly what happened. They ran into Sasquatch. They went so far back. They were supposed to just go to this one area. Well, the other group were 6 of the big macho hunters, and they wanted to go further into the woods, see if they could find a place for future hunting. They went too far back, and they got run out by the Sasquatch. And their hair was standing on end for a couple of hours. I'm not exaggerating. I mean, the story's in the book. It's fascinating. But the whole point is, they have stories about that from dozens. I have probably 4 or 5 people who have given me eyewitness accounts of seeing documents that talk about the Sasquatch are destroying bridges and other ways of getting back into the woods. And they know it, and they can't do anything. As soon as they start to build a bridge, the footings are destroyed overnight.
Happens. It's no different than some of the ghost stories that we hear of people working on their house and everything is messed up in the morning when they come back. I mean, it's the same story, different creature.
Yeah. They don't want humans back there taking apart their land and their habitat where they live with their families and raising their kids. They don't want them back there. We've given up enough land as it is. And so for you to come back to this specific area because there's, 300-year-old trees, old growth that is worth a small fortune, one tree could be worth, 50 grand. You knock down 10 of those in a day. I mean, money just starts going. So trust me, the lumber, paper, government, and science, they know exactly what's going on with these beings. I guarantee it. I give you everything in my 401k, almost.
So one of our listeners, Dirk Stanny, it's from Twitch. So basically, Dirk, what we're talking about is actual experiences that Carter has had with Sasquatch around the United States. And Dirk says in our chat that he has seen a Sasquatch in his yard once and no one believes him. And that's kind of why Carter's here, is to help me know more about what's going on with Sasquatch, because I don't know that much about it. So check out Carter's books, and let me go find that again. You can find Carter's books at, let's see, right here, the relichominid.com.
Yeah, relichominid.com. And if you want if you go to that site, you can email me from that site. and I will get the email. And if you don't have the Funny Bones email, I'll send that to you, and you can send $35 instead of 55 to me directly, and I'll sell them and autograph them, and it comes to you, and it saves you money, you know.
So there you go. If you want to check out his books, there you go.
That's it. That's it right there. So that email right there, I'll sell them to you directly for $35, including shipping, and it's a good deal. When you get these books, they're very nicely done. I mean, I didn't cheap out with the black and white version. Nothing wrong with that. If you want to save money, I get it, you know. But I can't show a green, vibrant forest in black and white. It's just against my religion.
Yeah,
you know?
tones of gray doesn't do it.
It just doesn't do it. You know, the green speaks to you. You know, and
So-
it's a lot more clarity. But anyway,
So
so we're just being lied to and bullshitted. I mean, that's just pure and simple what it is.
yeah,
You know,
it is.
We're pawns.
So Dina or Dana, I don't know. Dina is what it looks like to me. Do you believe Bigfoot can become so attached to a person or a family to the point that where they're following them if they relocate?
Yes, they can, Dina. And I have another family, and we have talked about them before. They are having the same thing, and they're fixing to relocate. And they want them to know where they're going. But I think once you're on their radar, they will always know where you're at. They just will, you know. That person there, she and her hubby have had a lot of strange things going on their property.
Well, thank you, Dina, for asking your question and hanging out here with us tonight. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys, all you new people that are in here listening tonight, and especially all those that come in here every week and listen to me ramble on and on and on about different things. So I appreciate it. We've got another question here from Dave here. He goes, I think there needs to be an expedition to the effigy mounds in northeast Iowa because he would bet his life that there are sightings and recordings. There has been plaster casts of footprints there. Have you heard of the effigy mounds up there?
Yeah, I have. I've got a couple of friends that live up that way, Sasquatch researchers. And his belief, and that of many Iowans up there, is that the Smithsonian came and raided many, if not all, of the known mounds and took all the skeletal remains that were of the 8, 10, 12, 13 foot high variety and whisked them away to the Smithsonian, never to see the light of day again. So, yeah, I mean, if you get lucky, you know, and that's why I picked South Missouri for my research area, because there are mounds in the middle of the woods and on some farmers' properties. And they theorize, but they don't know for sure, that they might be Native American.
Right. And we have a location that we go to that we theorize that it's Native American because it's in an area where there were a lot of indigenous people at one time. There was also a lot of cavalry.
Yeah.
And new settlers and all that in northwest Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of mounds, like you said, in the woods. I never thought that it might possibly be something else.
Yeah, well, the other things that it could be besides, Native American burial.
Yeah, besides people, yeah.
It could be people. It could be some of these mounds were made as sort of a bunker to fend off the soldiers, the Confederate, the Civil War.
Right.
They go back that far, so they pushed dirt up and made mounds, so it would be kind of like a bunker or a foxhole type of thing, where they could fend off attacking people. Or it could be some Native American mounds that were just unknown at the time. A wandering tribe lost a few people and buried them. They may have buried Sasquatch there, since they had a symbiotic relationship going back until a white man got in the way.
Right.
So you just don't know. There's theories, but anyone that is familiar with the Ohio mounds or anything like that, or even Iowa, anywhere there's big mounds and knowledge of them. Indiana has a lot too.
Yeah,
The
Cahokia,
Smithsonian-
Illinois has giant mounds there.
Yeah, the Smithsonian came and just plundered all that and got it out of there. They didn't want that secret. I mean, it goes back that far. You know, the educational system. If you take 10 generations, 25 years of generation, that's 250 years. That goes back plenty of time to hide all the things that they found out and start disinforming us, educating us, so to speak. So there's all kinds of theories. If you don't want to think that something that big and deceiving could be going on, well, you're nuts.
Yeah.
Because, you know, just look at the government, the things they're doing now. I mean, you just look.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're for the people, by the people, and to the people, you know. So you got to
Yeah.
throw that.
Yeah.
stick
And
it-
screw the people.
Yeah.
But that's again, we're gonna avoid that. Don also asks another question. He asks, where could you donate extra? A trust, expedition, or charity to help with the research on Bigfoot?
You know, there's a couple of bigger groups out in the western area of Washington State, Oregon, are two that come to mind. Northern California. There's some big groups. Smithsonian doesn't say, oh yeah, sure. So, but there are some, but you know, there's also some pro-kill groups, which I'm not a fan of in one way, shape, or form. They have to kind of be careful. There's a group, WIBS. There's another group. I'd have to think of the name. I can't remember, so I don't want to give any disinformation. There are some, but I'd want to kind of know how the money's being spent, and you know, you're needing thousands and thousands, and if they aren't getting dozens and dozens of donations monthly, it's all out of pocket, and it's a very slow, grinding thing. I'm self-funded. I bought all my own equipment. You know, I spend my gas. I spend money on hotels when I'm not camping, and I do most of my stuff is camping. So, I mean, you know, there's no place I would spend my money for that,
Right?
unless you knew exactly what it was going for. There's nothing government study, no colleges or universities, none of that kind of stuff. I would wait for some boots on the ground person like me or somebody else who's got bigger, deeper pockets to be able to come up with something. But really, it's just the right place and the right time, you know, and you know, they know what you're going to do before you're going to do it. You know, you just have to be lucky enough to come upon a bone or a body that somehow where you could find it. I mean, that just doesn't happen. They are very self-aware. And if they can go into different dimensions, they may go somewhere else to die entirely. You'll never see a body.
It's kind of like the elephant graveyard, the mythical elephant graveyard. They do know where it is. I mean, apparently the elephants know where it is.
Yeah.
Some people know where it is, but it's not highly known exactly where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is the same thing. I remember watching the Finding Bigfoot. Okay. I remember sitting there listening to them saying the porcupine theory. And at that point, I rolled my eyes and I never watched the show again.
You may not know what that
is. And I don't know if you know what the porcupine theory was.
I don't watch the show.
Well, this is a long time ago. And yeah, it's good that you didn't watch it. But they said that the reason you couldn't find Bigfoot bones was because the porcupines were taking them, because they're hoarders. And it's like, why would they take bones when they're herbivores? They don't eat this type of stuff. Why would they take it? And that was the beginning of the end of that show.
Yeah. Well, here's one. They should have explained it in a way that made sense. But animals like raccoons, possum, wood rats, they do eat the bones for the marrow and the protein. So
Right.
that's, that does eat the bones up.
Right.
But it's not porcupines and they're not hoarders. Now they may, put them in their dens to eat leisurely, but there's many, many scavenger animals that eat bones. That's what helps. Why don't we find a body? Why don't we find a bear body or a wolf? Number one, they go away to die. They hide when they're sick. If they get better, boom, they're back. If they're so sick they're going to die, well, they die and they're half buried already.
Right.
And then, have you ever seen the film The Body Farm? A human body can decompose within 5 to 7 days. A wild animal, about the same. The maggots, as soon as something dies, the flies lay the maggots, maggot eggs. And then they start eating the hair and the skin. And then the meat is all carried off to the four corners by different scavengers. So in a week, that body's gone. You're not going to see it, and the bones too, because everybody gnaws on the bones. There's marrow, there's protein. There's a lot of protein in that marrow when it's fresh. So that's why you don't find a body. And if you look at all the big alpha predators, the wolves, the bears, you don't find those laying around either.
No.
With rare exception,
I would like to thank you so much for coming on here tonight. Where can everybody find you?
Well, I'm going to be under the covers of my bed in about 30 minutes. But if you want to find me, you can email me directly at sqexplorer@gmail.com. Sasquatch, sqexplorer@gmail.com. You got questions or whatever, I'll respond. I'm not one of these guys that just doesn't respond, and my webpage is www.relichominid.com if you want to buy the books. But if you buy them there, you're going to spend about $45-50 with shipping. If you email me directly at funnybones442.cb, Denise has it right up here, at .cb@gmail. $35 to my PayPal. Just go to PayPal and email me with $35 and I'll mail them to you. Just give me the address and all that. I'll give you the tracking number and all that. It just saves the money. The website is just to get more exposure. So unfortunately, it costs a little money to run those things and I don't have a whole lot to say. So anyway.
Well,
or maybe Denise has me back. You can find me here. I don't know.
Yep. I will definitely have you back. And like I said, everybody who's coming to the Joplin Paracon will have a chance to meet Carter and hear him speak. So Susan, even though you missed the first part of the show, you get to hear him speak when we're down there in Joplin. So you'll enjoy him. He's got a great sense of humor. He's got sarcasm might be his first language too. So you'll enjoy that. And we're going to all have a great time when we go down there. Join the Paranormal Pride next Monday night at 7 p.m. Central when my guest is Alex Matsuo. We're going to talk about all the things that have been irritating the life out of her in the paranormal recently. Her move to Richmond, Virginia from Asheville, North Carolina. No, it wasn't Asheville. Raleigh, North Carolina. And we're going to see what she has to share with us now. And tomorrow night, join me with Carl and Ron on Paranormal Nation Radio, Not So Normal, when we have guest Michelle Ertz. She's going to be talking about her new brick and mortar store in Manila, Iowa. So, and only bad part is she won't be able to abuse Cameron any this time, but it'll still be fun. Maybe she'll abuse Carl instead. Who knows? So join us right here on the Paranormal Pride, on the Bill of Rights Network, and anywhere else that you see that I'm broadcasting at. So check us out. So I hope everybody has a great night and a great week. And thank you so much for listening. And thank you, Carter, for being a great guest. I appreciate it.
Had a blast. Do it again.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you.